Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. Thanks for being here. You are in for an intense session. Take copious notes. Put your almond croissant aside. Take a couple chugs of coffee to keep yourself awake during this, because I'm going to give you some information on some disappearances that will blow your socks off. All right? Now, first thing I want to read to you is a story that when I read it, I couldn't believe it. And it involves a disappearance. The title of this is Jungle Woman Claimed as Long Lost Daughter. Dateline January 20th, 2007. Cambodian cop says scar identifies girl who disappeared in 88. Cambodia. A woman who emerged from the jungles a week ago, burbling, grunting, and walking bent over, is still giving up none of her secrets, even to the family that has taken her in as their presumed long-lost daughter. Dubbed a jungle woman by residents of this remote district in the northeastern province of Ratnakiri, she is claimed by a local family to be 27-year-old Rocham Pinigan, who disappeared at the age of 8 when herding buffalo in 88. Stop for a second. I've written many stories about kids told by their family to go out and herd the cattle, and they disappeared. So just as he watched her gobble down her food, the father of Rocham looked at her with amazement. Quote, "Maybe that's the way she used to be in the jungle," he said. But unable to speak any words the villager can understand, the woman cannot solve any of the mystery that surrounds her disappearance for nearly 2 decades. So far, Salu's family says she mostly uses sign language to indicate basic needs. She pats her stomach when she was hungry or needs to go to the toilet, and is taking a liking to the family's collection of karaoke videos. She just started at that video without blinking. She liked it very much, her father said. Villagers expressed skepticism Friday that the woman could survive on her own in the jungle, and said she was apparently found with her hair trimmed short. If she was in the jungle for 19 years, why was she wearing her hair short? Said a shopkeeper. It should have been long unless someone cut her hair in the jungle. Many questions remain about the circumstances of her disappearance and what happened to her, said the police chief of the local district. Officials want to take DNA samples from the parents to see if the woman is a match. She was captured naked on January 13th, 2007, after a villager caught her taking food from a lunchbox he had left on a site near his farm. Village policeman Salu described his first glimpse of the woman, quote, "She was naked and walking in a bending forward motion like a monkey, exactly like a monkey. She was bare bones skinny." End of quotes. Her eyes were red like a tiger, he said, and he felt fear from her. But he checked her right arm. There he found a scar, just as the daughter he had from a knife accident before she disappeared. "She looked terrible, but despite all that, she is my child," he said. Objective evidence for the relationship beyond a certain physical resemblance is thin. But Salu is not the only family member claiming Rocham has returned at last. Rocham Comfy, 25, said that the moment she arrived in their house with Salu, he went to grab her right arm to check for the scar. "I saw the scar right away and I knew that was my sister," he said. Despite being taken into Salu's extended family, the woman's heart may remain in the jungle. On Thursday, she took off her clothes and acted as if she had to go back into the wild, Salu said. Restraining her, the family took her to a nearby Buddhist pagoda for a monk to give her a holy water blessing and to expel evil spirits that may have possessed her, he said. She spends her days sitting or lying on the floor, sleeping or staring at scores of visitors who come to gawk at her in the ramshackle house she now shares with 12 people. Well, they doubt that she could live that many years in the jungle. Well, if she wasn't in the jungle, where was she? And the article did have a photo of her. That's her. Got cleaned up a bit. I bring that up because there are those stories out there of phenomenal survivals under unbelievable conditions. Now, there's also stories of animals taking care of small kids that come to them. I don't know. I never heard how the DNA came out. Just thought it was an unusual story. Now, grab your hats and hold on. First of all, do you remember several months ago, I did a story on a series of runners missing on a specific mountain range in eastern Colorado? Remember that? Do you? Well, I'm going to attach a copy of the video when I get a chance to this one under the comments section. Always read the comments on my video before you make a comment. Please read them. It's always going to be the #1 pinned comment on the video. So, the first video I did about this case was about 3 runners that disappeared on an island. Now I'm going to put this in a neat little socket for you. Add a couple of cases to it. And here we go. Now the majority of the runners we're going to talk about today, 4 of them, are missing from Madeira Island. This involves a super set of circumstances. And these disappearances are core to what we talk about. All of you know that berry pickers, hunters, runners are all subgroups of the missing. Mushroom pickers. Well, this is obviously a big subgroup that we're going to talk about. Now, in my previous books, I wrote a story about a man named Victor Tenney. This is the missing persons poster on Victor. 40 years old when he disappeared. He was a physiotherapist in the Canary Islands. He disappeared on January 1st, 2014 on Tenerife. And he was running inside the national park there and Mount Tied, T-I-E-D. This man was superhuman. And what I mean by that, he was known as an Ironman. He had ran the Ironman. He had committed 100% of his life to being in fantastic shape. He had ran the route that he was on that morning many, many, many times. Now, as he pulled into the parking lot, it was New Year's morning. He called his family, wished him a happy new year, said everything was great. Yeah, just going for my normal run. I'll be back a little bit later, blah, blah, blah. Everything's fine. Well, he disappeared. Family calls search and rescue. And Tenerife puts on one of the biggest search and rescues of their history. Helicopters ran the skies for days. The area he disappeared on is rocky, boulder, volcanic. Nothing grows there. They brought in bloodhounds. And after the 3-week search, they got nothing. Bloodhounds hit on nothing. Well, the family didn't give up. They decided that they were going to search every weekend until they found him. And they did that for a year. They didn't find him. They eventually gave up. Gave up, I think, the New Year's Day 2016. October 21st, 2017. A hiker found a body on the side of the Rocky Mountain in the same area I'm talking about originally. It was leaning against a boulder, found 900 feet up the mountain, and rescuers believe that he fell 300 feet down the mountain and died because of a fall. Are you paying attention? They called it a mystery because they didn't know how anyone could miss this. Cause of death was a fall. But here's the real weird part of this. His body was described in being in perfect mummified condition. Yeah, you heard that right. Mummified condition. Victor Tenney was probably in the top 5% of all runners in the top 1% of all the runners in the world. And he wasn't just an elite runner, bicyclist and swimmer. Now, I've told you before that I believe some of these falls are not real, meaning there's some other aspect to it that makes you fall. If you've watched Missing 411, the UFO Connection, go watch it. So Tenney's was the first case I got in the Canary Islands in that part of the world. And again, that happened January 1st, 2014. Now, 260 miles, almost perfectly north from Tenerife Island, is Madeira Island. There's 2 inhabited islands in that archipelago. Madeira's 34 miles long and 14 miles wide. It has a 90-mile coastline, and a majority of all the land on this island above 3,000 feet isn't even occupied. It's about 309 square miles in size, and it's 600 miles from the mainland Europe. It's a place that's absolutely stunningly gorgeous. Now, the first case that happened on this island, a man named Joshua Hardenberg, 28 years old, went missing December 29th, 2020. He went missing in the mountain area of Robocal. He was wearing a red jacket. He was considered an elite level runner. He was German. He was vacationing there with friends. At 2 p.m. during his run, alone, he called his friend and said he was lost. Okay. Well, his friend said, you call me back in a couple hours. Well, he didn't call back. At 7 p.m., his friends called authorities. They went up into the area. They couldn't figure out which trail he was on. He could have been on one of 3. The 3 areas where near where the phone was pinged were searched. There was a 3-day search and rescue. They found nothing. His friends responded and came to the island multiple times and searched, found nothing. Now remember what I told you, that he was wearing a red jacket? There he is in that jacket, in his running pants. He wasn't a small target, he's a big man, and he was a great runner. Joshua Hardenberg. Next case. So now we have Hardenberg, 28, and Victor Tenney, 40. So Joshua disappears December 29th, 2020. 7-8 months later, July 7th, 2021, Michael Kozak. This is Michael. He's Polish. He lived in Switzerland. His family and he went to Madeira on a family vacation, and they were staying at the Savoy Saccharum Resort near the coast. Michael took a run about every day. Well, on July 7th, Michael left on a regular planned run at 7 p.m. There was no contact with him afterwards. At 10 p.m., the family hadn't heard from him. It was getting dark. They called authorities. They determined that he disappeared somewhere between Porto Muniz and Calheta. He was considered an absolute expert trail runner, world-class level. It's him running right there in a race. The island threw out a lot of search and rescue at this. And the reason why, remember I've told you, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, Michael had a brother named Christoph. Christoph and him were best friends. They did everything together. They talked to each other all the time. His brother came out to the island, rallied search and rescue to assist more, and they did. Searched areas that had been searched multiple times. Michael at the time was staying with his wife and kids in the hotel. The last ping on his phone was at 8 p.m., an hour after he left. But the phone was still on the next day, but they couldn't locate where it was, and it was never found. Nothing of his was ever found. Now, I find it odd that the last ping they could get on the phone was at 8 o'clock, an hour after he disappeared. But they could tell the phone was still on, but they couldn't ping it. That's really weird. I suppose it's true. I mean, it was broadcast around the world. So anyhow, Christoph came back multiple times. He could not live with the fact that Michael was missing. That's the kind of brother you want right there. A guy who won't give up. Now, I can only imagine that Michael's going crazy if he's alive, and Christoph is going nuts that he can't find his brother. So let's review this. Hardenberg disappeared up in this mountain region, run along this road. Kozak disappeared, and in fact, the next 3 cases all disappeared in this area along the coast. All 4 of these people disappeared in a very small radius of one another. Just saying. Here's where the 3 disappeared. Here's the 4th. Looking at this right here, I mean, the whole island's 34 miles long. So you can kind of get a feeling that this all happened in a pretty close proximity to one another. Case number 3. Benoit Wa, 35 years old. Went missing September 1st, 2021. So Michael, July 7th. Benoit, September 1st. Just a couple months there. French tourist. He arrived August 31st. Went to the camp Parque de Queimadas. And at the end of that day, August 31st, he turned his phone off. He was going to camp for the time that he was there and run trails. But what happened, by turning his phone off, it keyed everybody in the family. They were super close. They talked to each other all the time. He said, hey, I'm going to leave my phone on, so if I need you guys, I'll call you. If you need me, you call me. Well, when the phone went off, his family waited a time. Maybe it went dead, whatever. Well, they eventually contacted the French embassy, who contacted the embassy in Portugal, which owns Madeira Island. They contacted authorities on Madeira Island, and a search was started on September 4th. Nobody knows what trail he went to. Nobody knows anything about it other than what I've just told you. It's probably one of the biggest whodunit, where to go cases of all of them that we're talking about today. And this is what happens when you travel alone, you go out on trails alone, bad stuff happens. Now I'm going to keep telling you guys, personal locator beacons. Personal locator beacons. They work anywhere in the world. You just got to get one. All right. Next case. Darren K. This is case number 4 on that same island, Madeira. 52 years old. Went missing December 11th, 2022. He was originally from Bolton in the UK and was now living in Sedberg. He was a service tech by occupation, and he was traveling with his female partner Victoria, who was also a world-class runner. They were staying in the town of Calheta, again, right in that area where those others went missing. He was with his girlfriend and his family. He and his girlfriend Victoria ran every day, ran as partners, were tight, and were in terrific shape. Darren was world class for 52. Got it. Well, on December 11th, he and Victoria went for a run. They got back to their hotel, and he said, "Hey, I still feel real good. I want to do another 30 minutes. She said, "Yeah, he did that every once in a while. It wasn't a big deal." Girlfriend said, "Sure, it's a beautiful island. Go do it. I'll go take a shower." 30 minutes goes by, hour goes by, hour and a half, 2 hours. Victoria contacts authorities and said something's wrong. Well, by that time it was nighttime. It was rainy, windy, high tides were flowing in, and authorities stated at the time that the search and rescue was restricted because of weather conditions. Now, Darren was no wimp. He was a member of the Calder Valley Running Club, and he was a bronze medalist for the club in the elite open division. It means anybody can run in it, even younger people. This was his 6th visit to the island. He knew it like he probably knew no other vacation spot. He's not going to get lost. 3-day search and rescue found nothing. Now, of everyone that went missing, Darren was the oldest. But he was probably one of the people that may have been running the longest. Him and Victor Tenney at 40 years old. Now, Darren didn't start running until he was older. He started running when he was 32. He found he loved it and he wanted to stay on it. So even during vacations, he would run. Victoria had no clue, was distraught, disappointed, as you can imagine. Now, here's the interesting part to me. This last disappearance was in 2022. We're in 2024 right now. Are there going to be more disappearances of runners on this island? I have yet to see an article that puts these 4 cases together with Tenney's 5, because I consider Tenney part of this group. Why? Because Tenerife is fairly close to Madeira. Now let's talk about these 5 men. First the 4 men on Madeira. 28 years old, 35 years old, 35 years old, and 52 years old. If you count Victor Tenney, that's a 40-year-old in there. So you have 28, the youngest, 52, the oldest, 35, 35, and 40. Everyone between 28 and 52. Nationalities: German, Polish, French, English, and Portuguese. Victor Tenney. All disappeared alone. 4 out of the 5 were running. The 5th one, we don't know what they were doing, but they were there to run. Nothing of theirs was found. 2 of the missing went missing in December. Now, Tenney went missing January 1st. That's real close. And then, of course, you got point of separation. All of these are point of separation cases. The most obvious case would be Darren K. And then you also have the case of Michael Kozek, who said goodbye to his girlfriend and family at the hotel and then went off running. Then also you got Tenney, who was on the phone and then said goodbye and put the phone down and took off running and wasn't saying. And then again, you also have Joshua Hardenberg, who said he was lost. Let's talk about the lost case. I've told you about the case before at Mesa Verde National Park, where the newspaper reporter went out to an area where this person disappeared and heard somebody calling for help, but couldn't find where the person was calling from, and yelled back and didn't get a response. I can tell you that everybody on the crew, and I think we had a crew of 8 people then, believed that he had to have been in a different dimension. Because you know how sound, you can kind of hone in on it. And if somebody's yelling, hey, I need help, and you yell back, people are going to yell back. Wasn't happening. And then when they came back in and told park officials, they said, oh, we were there yesterday and we massively searched that area where someone else heard someone calling. How can you reconcile that? Now, with Joshua, said on the phone he was missing. He was lost. Didn't know where he was. I know what I would do if I was running. I'd go back and run back the way I came. But even when they tried to ping the phone, it didn't work. There were 3 trails in that area where the phone pinged, but they couldn't hone in on it. Odd. So I was telling Angie about these cases. Angie's a big runner. And she said, well, I'd go to the island with you, but I'm not running. I said, well, we're probably too old and outside the profile of whatever's looking for somebody. But now here's the other part of this. Only Victor Tenney was found. And he's found 3 years after he disappears, mummified in perfect condition. I don't know what to make of that. But yet these 4 other runners on Madeira, none of them have been found. And I've told you many, many times, when a body disappears, it puts out an odor that is indescribable, and you will smell it for miles. Nobody smelled the body, folks. Nobody has. It doesn't make any sense at all. I'm completely puzzled by this. But knowing that we have cases in eastern Colorado that are very similar to this, it just tells me something is going on that is otherworldly to me. I mean, there's no place else in the world other than Madeira Island and eastern Colorado where I know of this happening, and I'm on top of it. So what is it about those 2 locations? So again, I'm going to put that video up I made of the guys in eastern Colorado. And you would really do me a huge favor by putting this video up everywhere you can. People need to know this is happening. This is unusual, to say the least. Thank you for being here. This was a complex one to put together, but I know I needed to do it because we need to have an understanding of what's going on here. Thank you for taking the time to be with me. You are greatly appreciated. You can follow my work of closing in on 600 videos right here on this channel by clicking on the videos under your screen. And you can get my latest book, Missing 411 Washington, at NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com, and go to the online store. Love your family. Do something nice for people. Go to the store, go to the post office, help someone. It's the kindness revolution. Paulides out.